15th regular school board meeting for Forest Lake Area Schools to order. Please join us while we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call of attendance?
I will. All right. Member Castle?
Here.
Member Corcoran?
Here.
Member Tyson?
Here.
Member Haglund?
Here.
Member Christensen?
Here.
Member Rebeline?
Here.
And Member Antonsen is here.
All right, all here. I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. That brings us to scheduled and unscheduled visitors this evening. We have a lot of green cards. I'll read my regular preamble here, and then we'll get moving here. We feel that public comment is a very important aspect of our community interactions, and as a result, have included that opportunity on our agenda this evening. In accordance with our green card procedure, we ask speakers to keep their comments relevant to the agenda item they would like to speak on. Comments that deviate from the topic are inappropriate and subject to being called out of order by any board member. We also ask that speakers remain respectful and use language that is appropriate to a wide audience, which includes our early childhood students. Remember, addressing the board during a publicly held meeting is a privilege and not guaranteed under any statute or constitutional provision. I would like to remind board members and commenters alike that this is an opportunity for the public to address the board and is non-interactive. We request that everyone here tonight be respectful of commenters and refrain from making their own comments or applauding to keep things moving. Commenters are given 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will give notification to speakers as their time is expiring, and the chair will strike the gavel once your time has expired. Please respect this time limit. I have shuffled the deck of green cards and will call speakers by first name and last initial. In addition to the speaker, I will also specify who is on deck to speak. To keep things moving, please be ready when it is your turn. And if it pleases the board, I would recommend that we open tonight's topic of discussion to pretty much any topic, since we do have a lot of green cards. A lot of them refer back to various committee meetings. So if I see no objection to that, we will go ahead and proceed. All right. I have Kathleen A., and on deck will be Kaylee M.
Can I start whenever?
Please proceed.
Hi, my name is Kathleen O'Waston. I was a senior in 2023. I graduated from Forest Lake High School at 2023, and I currently attend Howard University in Washington, D.C. So I just wanted to kind of talk about my experience as a black student at Forest Lake. When I started going to school in this district, it was very hard to connect with people just because obviously I'm black. People don't really know how to like interact with me, and like it was I felt very much isolated. And this was like from elementary school all the way to like freshman year of high school, and I feel like I was so alone, and I didn't like coming to school. I liked staying home. I preferred online school because I could do my own thing at home. I didn't have to worry about people looking at me like I was an alien, or looking at me like I didn't know what I was doing, or treating me like I was stupid. So when I finally joined BSU, and when I got to high school, it was like I found people who I could relate to, and I really grew as an individual. Like I started joining clubs. I was in NHS. I was an officer of NHS. I started looking at schools. I'm going to the top HBCU in the country, and I feel like being around people that support you and can relate to you, it really builds you as a person. And I know, talk to my sisters who have both been presidents of BSU, and my aunt who started the BSU here. It really changes your trajectory, and I know a lot of students now in the BSU have plans for the future and are working towards goals because they have people who are encouraging them, and not students calling them dumb, or like in my experience having trash thrown at me just because I'm black, or people threatening to run me over because I'm black. If I'm afraid to go to school, I'm not going to want to come to school. Simple as that. And having these safe spaces, having these communities, it's a way to foster that ambition. And I feel like having that risk of having that taken away is just, it scares people and it makes people not want to even go to the school at all. Especially having a younger brother who's a freshman right now. He has friendships in that club. He has friendships that he's made, and having that taken away, it's like now he has to be forced to, he can't even go to O'Donnell's room because he has to be forced to sit in the cafeteria where people are looking at him like he's a foreign object on this earth. And that's my 2 cents. So I feel like you guys should rethink what you're trying to do. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Kaylee M. On deck is Claire L.
Hello. You may remember me. In case you don't, my name is Kaylee. I'm a student at Flams, and this time I'm not here for just myself. I'm here for my friends as well. And let me tell you about what some of them would like to say. Let's start off with one of my good friends. Clubs have kept kids alive. To ban clubs is to allow the death of children who would be alive otherwise. Moving, isn't it? Now let's go to another. My mental health started to worsen. Now, of course I can't repeat everything said by them, yet the gist was that clubs helped them during the troubles in middle school. I'm here to tell you about a YouTube channel created specifically against these policies restricting our clubs. Multiple students' voices were included, even my own. If you make these clubs harder to access or even impossible, you could really affect students who need these safe spaces. I remember being excited to find out about these clubs at the beginning of the year, and if I might add about your earlier comment about Open Minds being more of an LGBT group, is completely false. Sure, some members may be part of this community, but that's only because they need a safe space, myself included. Open Minds is a safe space for everyone. I hope you realize that all clubs are safe spaces and they can't be taken from students. Call my parents if you want, but it won't stop me from defending our clubs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire L. And on deck is Kate N.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to speak about student groups. I won't talk about how counterintuitive it is to remove student groups that align with our district's equity commitment, increase academic achievement, attendance, and foster a sense of belonging and community for students. There are plenty of other community members here who are going to do that extremely articulately. And lots have done it through email or the 1,300 signatures that were on our community petition. I'm actually here to talk about the path of these policies and its lack of transparency, honesty, and democratic ideals. As school board members, you are well aware of your code of ethics, which states that school board members will vote after all sides of debatable questions have been fully discussed, strive to uphold responsibilities to the community, and listen to the opinions and views of other school board members, administration, staff, students, and community members. You have a responsibility to consider all voices in the district and the outcomes for all students. For example, it wasn't accurate when it was stated on May 1st that it was the first time that the board chair had heard about a community petition with 1,300 signatures in support of student groups.
Please comment on the topic and do not attack
It's
any
directly related
individual
to the
member of
topic.
board.
We know that this is inaccurate because there was a request to change the petition to a community member who had posted about it. It is also inaccurate to say that these policies are based on model MSBA policy when the most restrictive and harmful proposals do not actually come from MSBA or federal or state statutes. It sure seems like a violation of ethics and possibly open meeting law to state to a policy committee that the policies already have 4 votes in response to an offer by a community member to assist with working on the policies. The blatant disregard and underselling of community input on the student group policies is unacceptable and a clear violation of the school board code of ethics. To the extent that you may say that you have received positive feedback about the proposed policy, I am hereby requesting to inspect all written comments about the district policy. It is not transparent or in line with democratic values to present these policies as written and in final form when the overwhelming consensus at the original policy committee meeting in April, it was to pump the brakes on these and to do more research to ensure that the policies don't eliminate vital student groups at the middle school level or provide unnecessary roadblocks for students to have the clubs that elevate them, and all reasonable academic research increases their academic achievement. We expect honesty and we expect integrity. As school board members, you have a responsibility to consider all voices in the district, not just the ones that align with personal ideology. At a minimum, this policy should be recommitted in order to get these right, as the chair mentioned in the last meeting, and not get them fast. Thank you.
Kate N., and on deck, Sabdej Y. I apologize for the pronunciation of that.
Hi, my name is Kate Newble. A lot of you may not know me, but I've been a student in the district since I was born, but then since kindergarten I've been here. My mom lives in Wyoming and my dad lives in Forest Lake. Throughout my high school and middle school career, I've been in clubs, and I really do care deeply about what they mean and what they stand for. For example, I attended a lot of Hmong and Asian Culture Club throughout my entire middle school career, which for me was cut short. I really think that it's so important that if we're going to have clubs, some of these ones that are cultural identifying need to be in place, like Hmong and Asian Culture Club, as well as our Open Minds Club. This is a club that I also attended throughout middle school, and that's something that needs to be in place, because a lot of people, like other people have said, need to have a space that they can go to. School, especially middle school, is a place where you are subject to being bullied. And our school does a great job at preventing that and or counteracting that. But I think that having Open Minds Club is somewhere where you know you're not going to get bullied. And I think that that's just an awesome place to be. And I need that to be heard and understood as somebody who's been in some of these clubs. I may not be in a Hmong and Asian Culture Club anymore, or may not be applicable to it. But having been invited to attend such thing and then having such fun there. I remember being in Mr. Cole's class and then meeting him for an actual teacher role and being so excited, like I already knew him. And that might be taken away for some of our kids, and I don't want that to happen. And I feel like we need to keep our clubs intact. I know that that's something we're going to talk about more in the future, and it will be more instituted in the future as well. But I just need that to be heard and understood that our clubs are important, specifically these ones that are cultural identifying. And I also think that they really just need to be there. And I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's what they are there for. BSU is a great example. GSA is a great example. They're all there for a reason, and to take those away, it's just like, those are just safe spaces. They're not doing any harm. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Sabdej Y., and please help me with the pronunciation of that, and Susan Y. is on deck.
Hi, my name is Shorday Yang, and I am a junior at the Forest Lake Area High School. I'd like to bring up a few problems today, but before I address them, I'd like to mention that I'm in Student Council, LINK, DECA, and Hmong and Asian Culture Club. The first three, Student Council, LINK, and DECA, are clubs that help develop skills of mine and develop leadership and help me make business-like decisions in helping those around me. I'd like to acknowledge that Hmong and Asian Culture Club does not develop skills or does not contribute to the wider community as other clubs. It's also been struggling with bringing in members, but it does bring in a sense of belonging as well as knowledge to Asian cultures when we can. I've been able to teach phrases in Hmong in traditional Hmong culture to those who have never experienced that or are losing a sense of our culture. Hmong and Asian Culture Club promotes unity amongst people of all grades and brings in Asian people from a dominant white community. It's needed because it's not easy for one to simply join clubs or sports. I vividly remember studying junior year, and I had a friend doing volleyball tryouts. They came up to me and said, yeah, some people call me minions, and that we should eat bananas. Minions are yellow, by the way. No one should face racism based on stereotypes that don't even apply to them. Being Chinese is one thing, being Hmong is another. So here comes my second concern. My sister will be joining the middle school next year, and if we get rid of clubs that could have the power to bring in a sense of belonging, how do you think adapting for her would go? For context, we both transferred from an all-Hmong school in the Twin Cities. Adapting will be scary for her, and I like to be comforted that she has time to make friends and that she will be able to have a sense of belonging at the middle school. Just as her, I was scared to join and take courage, but in finally taking a step forward, I've been able to connect with underclassmen as well as upperclassmen. in a safe environment outside from our usual education. I would like my sister to experience the same sense of belonging as well as other kids who will find the change difficult, especially those who will be joining with 6th grade. I would like you to encourage to keep Hmong and Asian Culture Club as well as other clubs that may be directly connected to our school's curriculum. They serve a purpose. It's beneficial for the kids who want to get involved to broaden their interests as well as build a community in a safe environment. You may get to experience the Hmong and Asian Culture Club event tomorrow, as we are hosting our Asian American Pacific Islander Night. I urge you to come from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. to see aspects of the Hmong culture and to see the joy our members to get to experience on our Thursday's meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan Y. on deck. Sophia O.
Hi, my name is Susan Young, member of the community, and listen to the policy committee tonight. I want to thank the policy committee for recommending that the district not put a bottom number, a minimum number on students, a minimum number of students in order to have a club. I did not phrase that appropriately. I appreciate that the policy committee had listened to that and had concerns and is recommending that change. I greatly appreciate that. I am the president of the Forest Lake Rotary, and I have been the Rotarian who is part of the high school Interact Club. Some of you may have seen on Facebook their success of their most recent military drive. This is a club that is not only a huge benefit to the community, but they have gone on and represented Forest Lake very, very well in their colleges. In recognition of the work that they do, the Forest Lake Rotary has in the past had 2 scholarships for Interact students. In section Roman numeral 4-E, it currently states, and I believe has for a while, that non-school persons may not regularly attend activities of student groups. No high school administration or middle school administration or faculty are members of Rotary. Steve, I appreciate your membership. But it is also a Rotary International requirement that a Rotarian be a part of a Rotary Interact group. I've been a coach. Some of you may remember that I've coached middle school soccer on occasion and have done work with, as a previous master gardener, with student groups. At the community school, in order to work with students or to be with students, I need to have a background check. I'm a member of the FLA board. I have to, even though I don't interact with any of the student athletes directly, I have to have a background check. I might suggest that as part of that policy, that if you had adults that were looking for a club, such as a Rotary Interact, perhaps folks with DECA, perhaps we have folks in the community that are business and professional folks or technical trades folks that would be interested in helping an after-school club in their interest area. If we were to allow non-school folks with a background check, that would provide additional opportunities for students, and it would also help bring the community and the skills and knowledge of the community members into our schools. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan.
Sophia O. On deck is Kate L.
Hello, my name is Sophia Olson. I have been attending the Forest Lake School District since kindergarten, and throughout that time I have experienced a lot of mental health issues and feeling isolated and not being able to build many connections. And one of, the only things that really brought me any sense of community was, the clubs. 'Cause it's hard, especially in middle school. It's such a turbulent time. Everybody's trying to figure out who they are and where they stand and, and having that place to connect with people is incredibly important because of, I can't speak for everyone, of course. I'm only one person, but I was fortunate enough to be a part of these clubs. And I know many other people who have, built a lot of connections and support on these clubs because of the community and the connection that they provide. Especially in such a large school environment, it gets really overwhelming. And I feel like, we are a very diverse community. And that diversity can also sometimes, make it hard for us to connect with each other. But having a standard place that's you have a title and it's, you can go here and you can be with people that will probably connect to you and relate to you. And I've never really come up here and spoken before, so I'm not exactly very fluent. But it's very important to me that people coming into middle school have that, access to actually be with people who don't harass them and don't call them slurs and throw things at them on the bus, because I have experienced it so many times. And when you're surrounded by so many people, it's hard to find the ones that you can connect with. And so I feel like it is incredibly important that we provide these spaces. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kate L. on deck. I have Jenny R.
Right. I am the opposite. You've heard from me multiple times. I actually was not planning to speak tonight because there were so many guests in the room, and you've made it clear that you do not particularly want to hear from former school board members or teachers. So we have been making sure that there's students and other people in the room. But the Black Lives Matter commentary and the anti-LGBTQ references that were happening during the policy committee in front of all these students was an issue for me, and I think it will be an issue for lots of people. It seems like the next policy will probably deserve more attention from the community. And I would like to direct the fact that so many of our students have really stepped out of their comfort zone to be here. We're not speaking for them, they are speaking for themselves, but there's countless others who cannot be here. Most middle schoolers don't come to board meetings. We are trying to speak on their behalf. And we don't know everything. I heard things today I had not heard. And I hope as board members you are listening to these stories and making sure you hear them. And when you get emails, you're reading them. And when you're speaking in front of a group, recognize who's in that group. And that your words do actually matter, not to have a callback. But you said a couple things in that finance meeting in front of a lot of people. And this is a Pandora's box you opened, these policies. We have a lot going on in the district. You are focusing on these policies. I will respect your view as chair that you would like to dig into policy. There's a lot going on, but we'll be on this ride with you, reviewing, and hopefully you will hear us and not just say, I was elected, I'm in charge. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny R. On deck is Jocelyn M.
Hi, my name is Jenny Rattay. I sent an email to the school board, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your responses. This is the first school year my kids are attending Forest Lake schools. My husband and I have one child in middle school, another child in high school. When we moved to Forest Lake, we were very excited to find out the new school district offered so many opportunities for children to be actively involved and meet new friends. A family value of ours is that our kids must actively participate in life. They can choose what they want to do, whether it's a sport or club. If it's not for them, that's okay. Finish what you started and try something else next time, assuming that there is something else to try next time. Professionally, I'm in my third year of working in education for another school district, coordinating after-school programs and summer learning programs for about 20,000 students annually. Prior to education, I worked at a nonprofit for 12 years with clients who had severe persistent mental illness, or chemically dependent and unhoused. I work with vulnerable people, and you represent them. Please do justice to that. Personally, for the past 42 years, I've been a human who has grown and evolved many times thanks to the opportunities that have come my way. It's been said that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's connection. I've witnessed both professionally and personally what relationships and connections can do for people. It's in places like sports or special interest groups where our children can build connections with their peers and sustain new friendships. I received an email in the fall saying that Forest Lake Area Middle and Community High School is pleased to be partnering with Speak for a short positive community norm survey, and my response will help community find more ways to promote positive, healthy choices for our local youth, particularly when it comes to not using drugs or alcohol or other drugs. In a recent Star Tribune article, it said, on February 23rd, Forest Lake School Board unanimously approved funding for groups promoting inclusion and diversity following a strong show of public support, as you see here today. I was proud to know that the community my family lives in, it wants to be inclusive of all students. For a district who sends out such surveys and claims to promote inclusiveness and diversity, I do not understand why on April 14th, the Forest Lake School Board proposed Policy 1801 restricting student interest clubs. The policy seems contradictory to the unanimous approval on February 23rd, and I wonder what changed. What happened to change your minds from unanimously voting for something, and then less than 2 months later, you're actively pursuing a policy to end these groups? It's imperative that opportunities such as student interest and affinity clubs continue to exist for all students. Words matter, but actions speak louder. When children are actively participating in something that they want to be part of, they are less likely to make negative life choices, and they're more likely to attend school, as you've heard here today from our students. Rather than adding unnecessary restrictions to whether or not a club may exist, I encourage the Forest Lake School Board to reconsider the proposed policy of 1801 and update it with opportunities to benefit and enrich our students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Jocelyn M. And on deck is the last green card I have, Aaron S.
Good evening. My name is Jocelyn Matheson. I've been an educator for 26 years. I'm going to read the letter that I sent to you all a few weeks ago, and I spoke at the listening session, and my message is the same. I struggled whether or not to be here and to speak up because we had heard messages that teacher's voice doesn't matter in this situation, but as a teacher, we're here to say we do matter. We love our students. This is why we're in the job, is for our students and protect their best interests. And I don't just love some of my students, I love all of them. They come into me with many different abilities, many different backgrounds, rich, poor, black, white, speaking English, speaking many other languages. And that does not make us less. It makes us stronger. And so I'm here today to fight for all of my students, fourth graders, 9 and 10-year-olds, who you're claiming that at the 6th grade level, 7th grade level, 8th grade level, we can't talk about important topics like who they are, their identity. It's so important to talk about that. In 4th grade, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking to students about puberty. You think that matters? It's the only thing that matters to them that day. They're so scared. But by the time they leave my classroom, the girls, they feel so empowered and they feel so connected to know that they're changing bodies, that it's okay to talk about it with their peers. So we build community every single day. It doesn't just happen in 9th grade. It's happening now. It's happening in kindergarten. It's happening in 4th grade. And I am going to make sure that my students right now have the future protections that they deserve. Just like she said, this is a really tough time We're sending the kids from elementary school into the middle school. These kids have been together with their peers for 5-6 years, and now they're in a middle school situation, and they need to find connectedness. It is the only thing that matters to them. If you want them to succeed academically, you need to give them the clubs. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the last green card I have is Aaron S.
Hello, board. I apologize for my attire. I came from work, so I apologize. But I am Erin Steigenberg. I am a junior at the high school. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me and who I am. I moved here when I was 3 from Colorado. I immediately enrolled in ECFE, where I met my current best friend. So we've been friends for 14 years. Then when I was in elementary school, I joined Spanish Immersion, which was an honor because I had that community. You don't know, you know who's going to be, who the 40-ish kids could be in your class each year. It's always the same kids. You might lose a couple, you might gain a couple through the years, but it's always going to be the same kids, and you know that you're going to have those people through your entire elementary school career. In 3rd grade, my family started doing foster care, where I was introduced to other cultures, and now I have an adopted brother who's 9, and adopted twin sisters who are 6, and they are also Native American. This has given me the opportunity to learn so much more about other cultures. I have started coming to all of the Native American parties and beading, and I actually beaded my own prom shoes this year. And it's very exciting to see all of the diversity, even in my own family. And we are trying to put a stop in the generational substance abuse. And I think right now we are on the right path with my siblings. But without support from others, that will not happen. They will not be able to come to school every day. And I struggle to come to school every day. And I want them to enjoy coming to school and have people that are there for them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank all of our speakers tonight, especially those of you who really stepped out of your comfort zone and shared your feelings with us. The work we do is much more impactful when we hear the voices of the community, so I thank you for that. That will bring us to committee reports, 9:16. I will start with that. We had our May meeting on at 9:16 on May 12th. We had recognition of retirements. We had a couple of long-term members there. We had a member who was retiring after 26 years, who also had some volunteer time, bringing his total time of service over 30 years. Another member at 15 years, and this one really impressed me, an education assistant with 46 years of service to 916. We also had our first reading on the fiscal year 26 budget. One of the things that stood out from the budget was there was an anomaly in the debt service levy that will be coming back to Forest Lake. There was approximately a $1 million error about 10 years ago. Director Renberg-Eide will share more about that with us as we get to the point where we're approving our levy, since that will be levied this year to residents. It's a relatively small dollar amount, but it's important that the board understand that. At 9:16, we're also going through lots of policies. We had 4 approvals on the agenda, 1 other policy that was there for first reading, so that work is starting to slow down. We had 3 relatively large contract approvals. One was the approval of the Matamidi Academy lease agreement with Century College. This is an ongoing contract with some minor increases year to year. We had approval of educational services agreement with Spring Lake Park ISD 16. Again, that's an ongoing agreement. And then we had approval of the Know the Truth contract, which provides chemical health and individual group support to various 916 programs at various buildings. That concludes my report on 916, which brings us to Director Renberg-Eide for Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you. Good evening, board. Buildings and grounds tonight, we start off by talking about our LTFM bond sale that you approved and awarded on May 1st. After that, we talked about our 10-year plan for long-term facility maintenance. The paperwork has not been released yet, so we were hoping to have the plan, but didn't. We'll look at that either on May 29th or June 12th for the school board. We did talk about summer projects that are going on. Again, the high school, phase 2, locker rooms and cafeteria, and then the education center boiler. And maintenance items, we talked about the Linwood sign, something that has been asked a lot about, and got to see a picture of it installed. So we're waiting for the electricity and then the hookup of the internet to be able to get those messages to the sign. So very excited about the Linwood sign. Also, the radon report we had talked about at our last meeting, but making sure that the board is aware that that is available. We did radon testing at Columbus, Wyoming, Forest Lake, and Forest View, and all passed without any remediation needed. And also be looking on the lookout for some parking lot sweeping that will be happening in the next couple weeks.
All right, thank you, Director Ambergheide. I would also like to thank you one-on-one personally for all the work that you've done with the Linwood sign. I know I have questioned you about that a significant number of times in my tenure on the board. Does any other board member have any questions? Member Hegland.
Could you just give us a quick update on the Columbus well?
Yes, so the Columbus well, the plan is back at the state again, so we've had it back and forth twice in the last month, and so we feel like we have everything we need and we should be good to go. So once we get the plan, it'll take about 3 to 4 weeks to get the crew scheduled in, so hoping to have it started that week we get out of school.
So we will be good to go before next school year. I know those families have really struggled. Yes. They will be happy to hear that. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Director McKinnon for communications.
Thank you. At our communications committee meeting tonight, we talked about our district's crisis communications practice and procedures. We talked about the differentiation between the various crises that can occur in a district and how we communicate, depending upon whether it's a gas leak or if it happens to be a bus accident or severe weather threat or winter weather cancellations. We talked about the process by which we go about obviously making decisions. Dr. Massey pulling together a team of stakeholders, going through the decision-making process, and then what needs to be communicated, when it needs to be communicated, who we're going to communicate to, and then what the nature of that communication is going to look like. Of course, Renee Reedy taking on a lot of the verbiage of what goes out. We then overview the document that we have that has some of our pre-made messages that we have ready to go that we review annually with our winter weather advisory or cancellations, late starts if we were to have those, early release if we were to have school but we were to cancel after school activities due to weather or unforeseen circumstances. We have a document that lays that out, that we just changed some of the variables so that we're communicating consistently. Our messaging is clear, we have our bases covered, and we're not making it up on the spot. And then we also talked about the use of Synergy, our student management system, and pulling together the data and then putting that messaging out through Blackboard, of course. Or if it was a community ed event impact only, then we use Elio. The other topic that we went through tonight is just the community ed current registration page, how we've got it ready to go for summer programming and really for youth and kids. And we've got 3 very easy navigating clickable items there for athletic programs coming up this summer, aquatics in the pool, and then kind of everything else, some of our science academies and our arts and different options for kids there.
All right, thank you, Director McKinnon. And the crisis communication, it's very critical, and the document that we have is very, very well laid out, very well put together. And although I like to geek out on those things, I'll save my questions on that. But I do have a question on the buses and the cancellations. I understand with our new contract that we have with our school buses that we adjusted the timing of when those decisions are made. Can families expect different expectations as far as notifications are concerned next year? And I understand that may be a question for Dr. Massey.
Yeah, I can address that. In the bus driver collective bargaining agreement, we moved the cancellation time from 5:30 a.m. to 5:15 a.m. So that then moves up the communication to the community as well. We try to make that call by as early as 5 a.m., but the variables are always shifting and sometimes trying to buy as much time as we possibly can so we get the decision right. But we are committed to making that call as soon as possible.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything to add?
One
Yeah,
thing,
Member
Director
Tyson.
McKinnon, we also talked about with the crisis calling, how that kind of is a little bit in correlation with our SRP. And can you talk about how those things work together, just so that the board kind of hears that?
Yeah, so the SRP is our standard response protocol. That's the mechanism by which we go through locking down a building and we drill that. If there was an intruder in the building, how we secure the building, if there's something going on, let's say out in the community that we want to keep people in the building, make sure they're safe, but we can go about business as usual. Evacuate the building, say in the case of a fire drill. So we have a standard protocol that we've actually all gone through very extensive training to make sure that we're consistent across our whole system by way of how we implement those various procedures. And then from there, if we were to, let's say, initiate any of those mechanisms, then bringing the team together of whoever needs to be involved, whether it be principals or maybe it's in just evening events and it's Mike Hennon and myself and Dr. Massey and Renee, and going through and say, okay, based on X, now what needs to be sent out to the community so that we keep our parents and our families informed so that A, they know what to expect based on what occurred that day, but also too, to make sure that they have the accurate narrative of what actually occurred versus the secondhand information that may be coming home from students. Not to say that students don't have the accurate information, but we of course have the full scope of what is on the docket for whatever occurred that day.
Thank you for that. And I think our district has worked on that, and having that standard response protocol in place is really important. And I think all the work together when you go to make those calls is really important as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, we can move to Curriculum, Instruction, and Equity, Director Jacobson.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. At the Curriculum, Instruction, and Equity Committee meeting this evening, we tackled two big but separate topics. The first was an annual conversation around our Title I program that we have here in Forest Lake. We talked about what Title I is, where the funding comes from, the supports that it provides to students, how we identify students for receiving Title I services, what those services look like when they take place during the day, how we progress monitor and drill down to the specific academic skills that they need assistance on, and how students can eventually exit Title I services. We talked about which schools in our attendance boundary are Title I schools or receive Title I services. Currently, that's Forest Lake, Forest View, and Lino Lakes, as well as St. Peter's School. Annually at this meeting, we talk about what our core program looks like this year, as well as possible changes as we look to next year. We haven't received our Title I funding a notice yet for next year in terms of what is our funding rate going to be, but we anticipate that within the next, I would say, month or so. But because one of the schools that I just mentioned, that being Forest Lake, won't be an active school in our district next year, we anticipate that there might be another school in our system that could receive Title services, so we're eager to monitor that. And some changes in how we provide Title services, possibly on the cusp at Forest View and Lino Lakes, looking to next year. Then we then transition to giving the committee an overview of the same topic that this board heard from Scandia at the last meeting. We made sure that the full committee was aware of the partnership that we've developed recently across all buildings with junior achievement, and we laid out all of the learning and lessons that went into that before we brought them down to St. Paul and Biztown. We talked about how junior achievement is built on the foundation of work readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship, and we talked about what that looked like in terms of specific student learning And we laid that out, and then how that plays itself into 12 lessons that take place in 5th grade during the months of December through early March, and how they prepare themselves to run this essentially a small economy down at Junior Achievement. There were some great questions. Did students enjoy it? I think that kids who were there absolutely had a great time, and so we talked about that. We also shared some information how this work really started with Dr. Massey and his leadership at the high school as we built out our career pathways years ago. That has really informed what we do at the middle school, and now we're, again, bringing that down. Again, not having kids choose a career in 5th grade, but beginning to think about what does that look like? What do careers look like? How do adults in the world apply for jobs? How do they interview for jobs? Those sorts of things. And at the age-appropriate level for a 5th grader, they did some of that. So we talked. Those are the two major topics that we covered at CI&E tonight.
Thank you, Director Jacobson. Anything to add or any questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to Finance. Director Renberg-Eide, welcome back.
Thank you. We reviewed our run rates for FY25 to start the meeting, and they're looking as they have been in past years. We know the settlements are coming up, so we are monitoring that. We presented the FY26 preliminary budget to the committee, and then it will be in front of the board at the next meeting. And then we talked about the LTFM plan coming for approval again in May or June. And then we got to look at some fun food at the end. So our food services department is working to enhance their options for school lunches, and so they've done a lot of piloting this year with their new combi ovens that we have, the availability to cook a whole bunch of different types of foods, and those combi ovens were purchased through the Food Service Fund and grants from the Department of Education, so we're very excited about that.
Oh, any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Brings us to policy, Director Friedman.
Good evening. We had quite a full agenda in front of us tonight. We talked about, again, we talked about our harassment and violence policy 425 that has made a couple of first appearances here at the board, and as to whether there would be anything specifically to look at there. So we're going to do a little bit more deeper dive between now and fall on that one. We talked about our student discipline policy, otherwise that we generally refer to as our student code of conduct, specifically with respect to attire for students, what's permissible, what's not permissible, and whether to make some changes in that area. We talked about, there was a conversation about whether to discontinue our 529, our multicultural, gender fair, disability sensitive policy, which largely parrots state rule that does lay out a number of things that we are obligated to do as a district. So we looked at some small tweaks to that one. We looked at two together, a prospective 1103 and a prospective 1206, that in conjunction with each other deal with largely the open forum of a school board meeting and the public participation component thereof. And also we talked about, of course, the equal access to school facilities prospective, proposed policy 1801, with a couple of particular focuses on that. One being whether there should be a minimum number of students involved to trigger a yes as to whether a student group should exist or could exist, and also the matter of how far the policy would extend, to what extent in the system. So all secondaries or limited to the upper secondaries. That's what I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Director Freeman on that? All right, seeing none, that will move us to staff welfare. Dr. Massey.
Yeah, we talked about enrollment, and we were able to get an update on enrollment. Now that we're in May, we're able to track almost a full year of an enrollment trend. The good news there is we are tracking, on average, about 80 students above our budgeted number, which translates into more kids being enrolled in our district and has a direct impact on revenue for the district. We also talked about strategic planning. We are coming to the end of our 5-year strategic plan, expiring but coming to an end in 2025 at the end of the school year. So we talked about the opportunity to do a complete rewrite or a modification or update to the strategic plan. So we'll need more conversation with the board and with our system around that topic. And then we also were able to spend a little bit of time getting an update on where the legislature is at. They adjourn here next Monday. They've got a lot of work to do. They did come to budget targets between the governor, the House, and the Senate. That's the first critical step to now putting the full budget together. So we'll see if they work around the clock up to Monday at midnight. And if so, then we'll have an adjourned session with a budget in hand. If not, they'll adjourn anyway and then call a special session, hopefully soon thereafter, to complete the budget work. And that's my update.
All right, wonderful. Any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, before we conclude with the committee reports tonight, I'd like to make mention that this is the final committee night for this school year. Committees will resume in September. Committees are open to all members of the public that live within the district, including students. We had some students on policy committee specifically. I don't know if we had students on other committees, but that's always exciting to see. So definitely encourage involvement on that. And I'd like to thank all members of all of the committees. It's incredibly useful to the board to get more feedback on a lot of these topics, and it helps us in the work that we do. So that will move us to the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anybody would like to pull? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the motion carries. Brings us to action items 7.1. Approve 2024 to 2026 Forest Lake Association of Professional Office Personnel Contract Benefits Agreement. Dr. Massey.
We're pleased to bring this ratified agreement to the board for your approval tonight. These are the folks who provide administrative assistance at various levels throughout the district. Probably without exception, our building principals and other staff might say that these folks run the school. They are extremely valuable to the work that we do in our district. So I would highlight a few of the most noteworthy changes in this updated agreement. The first would be a 25-cent per hour additional add to the wage for folks that have an associate's degree, a BA degree, or a business certification. A $100 increase to the family medical premium, district contribution. Converting Good Friday from an identified holiday titled Good Friday to a floating holiday could certainly be used in conjunction with the Easter timeframe. And then the wage increases are within school board parameters that you set for us, similar to the other classified agreements that have already been approved. The first step of the wage in the first year would be a 2.5% increase, a 2.5% increase in the second year, 1.5% increase, not in the second year, in the second step. In the third step, a 1.5% increase. The fourth step, a 4% increase, and the fifth step, a 4% increase. And then a 3% increase across the board in the second year of the agreement. So administration with those changes would recommend your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
Just want to thank everybody for their work on the contracts. We're just moving right along, and so proud of our district getting these things completed for our employees. It's important.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you. To that token, Dr. Massey, what's next with contracts?
We have a number of contracts that will be coming to you the next month. I would ask my team to confirm, but we'll have our para group, and then we'll nutrition services, and then we'll have a couple of other groups that'll come in, and that'll bring us to the conclusion of our classified.
All right. Thank you very much. We're moving right along. Any additional discussion? Any questions? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, will you please take the roll call?
I will. Okay, Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Haglund.
Aye.
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Rebline.
Aye.
Member Antonsen is aye. Member Christensen.
Aye.
And Member Castle.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, motion carries. That brings us to action item 7.2, cancel, award, and re-award work scope 03-A for Education Center Director Renberg.
Thank you. So it is rare that it happens, but it does happen that we have someone that put in a bid and then in the interim time between March and now had a business problem and weren't able to fulfill that bid. And so that's what happened here. We were informed by our construction manager, Kraus Anderson, that Kelleher Construction would not be able to do the work scope with the concrete at the Ed Center for our boilers. And so the second lowest bidder was asked if they would honor their bid, which they did. So Axel Ullman would like to take the bid, and so we're asking the school board to award that in the amount of $98,588.
All right,
Move to
before-
approve 7-2.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I was going to say before we move to a motion, but are there any questions or discussion on this item? Member Corcoran?
No, I was just going to ask probably the same. What was the difference in the bid?
Thank you.
Yeah. Because I knew your question.
So it was a big difference in the bid. It was
Unfortunately.
$18,000. So, well, in what that work scope was. So, yes, it was a difference of about $18,000. We have contingencies on all of our projects. These are $6 to $8 million projects. So you have to have contingencies for these types of things to happen. And so we're well within our contingency and still have plenty left to go through the project.
Is there any recourse when they do pull back their bid? I mean,
Perfect
does there-
question, yes. So
Yeah.
bid bonds are given at the time of bid, and so we are able to go after that bid bond, and that is what we're planning to do. Normally, it's questionable if we do or we don't, depending on when we get notification. This was really late notification, and so we just need to move forward with the project and everything. So that delayed it a little, and so we'll go after the bid bond.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
How much was the timing affected? You mentioned it delayed things a little bit.
Yeah.
How much?
Probably about a week.
Okay,
So,
so
not
so
too
not
bad.
significantly in the grand scheme of things. We're not looking at any major problems.
Nope, we just need to get this, we'll get this in tonight and then get the work going on it.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, Member Clerk, please take the roll call.
Okay, let's see here. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Haglund.
Aye.
Member Rebline.
Aye.
Member Christensen.
Aye.
Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Antonsen votes aye, and Member Castle.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
All right, motion carries. I see no new business on the agenda tonight, so I'll just remind board members and the public that our next board meeting is on May 29th. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned.